building Disneyland, you guys. Let's do it. Let me see. I have a video like I always do.
We'll go back to 1948. Much better year than this one.
That's any year in the last million years. Billion, maybe. I don't know.
Ornamentation and detail was created for
this is like a just like a time lapse of them building Disneyland from different angles. Some will be more obvious than others to you, but this is a cool way to start this meeting, I thought. So Electric Park was the first significant inspiration for Walt to have his own park. The park is an idea that's been around in conception and schematic for many years. He's been working on it since at least the 30s. Initially, it was Mickey Mouse Park, and it was going to be in Burbank across the street from the studios. The funds are not there, and the city itself is not exactly supportive of the idea, so it never gets built. The park itself was conceived during a time of depression, and there was no money, but of course this is not a problem for Walt, as it never is. And it's definitely a lesson for all of us to never give up or compromise our dreams, because our current situation looks bleak, because obviously right now things don't look great, but don't give up, don't compromise. We'll be fine in the end, just like Walt was, if we continue to work hard like he did. The studio tour idea sounded very cool, very much like Universal's. It was not a unique idea, because Universal had their studio tour since 1915. I looked it up because I thought maybe he was first. He was not. Walt was obsessed with trains and built his own train for his house, the Carrollwood Pacific Railroad. And he was very much into researching the theme parks and quizzed the owners and operators about the parks. I do like the story about John Colhane, a 17-year-old aspiring writer that was given a long talk by Walt. He was supposedly there to see his daughter, and then the daughter said, well, I actually really want to see you, Walt. And then they had like a 4 or 5 hour conversation, and Walt never really seems to think of anyone as beneath his notice and treats everyone the same. And that's just amazing, especially for a man of his stature, to never like give like that and feel like he's better than anybody. I love that. I hope we all continue to be like that. Walt sold everything and leveraged and mortgaged everything, and was still millions of dollars short on the building of Disneyland. So he had the idea to use television to finance the park. He said that he could not get a loan because dreams offer too little collateral, which is just an amazing line. Let's see here. The park was made to last despite some of Walt's desires to make it like a movie backlot, which would have made it much more temporary structures and things like that. And then Fantasyland itself was an arduous task, as Dumbo would not fly and Casey Jr. did not think it could. That was my way of being cute and funny. The cost-saving and time-crunching measures taken in building the park make you realize what a titanic effort all this was. Walt was a manager that would do what it took to make things happen while still demanding perfection. Like when they drove out to approve the Autopia cars, and he and Walt himself went in his suit and tie and got all dirty getting on the floor to look at them, which I think is a great way to manage, just really on his feet and making sure he's involved in every project. Walt had a huge party days before the opening of Disneyland to celebrate his wedding anniversary. It's become one of my places and times that I'm going to visit if I ever get a time machine. Just to go see this party that they're having. And Walt was very happy. It seems like he was very, kind of had his dream finally at the end of the night, very, very drunk in the backseat of his car there, driving home. So they expected 11,000 on the opening day. 28,000 showed up, including ladders at the back walls of Disneyland and fake tickets and everything else. Walt is also watching from his apartment above the firehouse as the people file into the park. It's quite a moment, I imagine, just watching people coming to the park in huge amounts and realizing his dream is going to be a great success. But in fact, Black Sunday, while a success for Walt in some ways, was actually a technical failure with wet paint, soft asphalt, low on food, water, and no rides as they had shut down to the heat. Walt was busy hosting the show on ABC and gave one of the most well-known dedication speeches in history, like his hero Lincoln. The media was not nice and said that Disneyland would not last. Also, they weighed the coin, and it's ingenious, and I want us to all move to the system. No more counting coin. We're just going to weigh it from now on. On September 8th, they welcomed the 1 millionth guest. The investors in Disneyland were paid off with a 1,400% return. So the lesson here was to achieve your dreams, do not quit, and be persistent. So we'll have to stop the share here. You guys got to see a time lapse of Disneyland. That's pretty cool, right? Let's see, Jessica.
Hey guys. So for this week, I wanted to do the sign for imagination because it takes a lot of imagination to make Disneyland a reality. So we learned dream during the last book. So you kind of pull like the thoughts from your head. So imagination is kind of the same. You have two eyes and you go from your forehead out, kind of in a like a circular. So imagination. So that was this week's sign. I loved learning more about the opening of Disney. You hear a lot about Black Friday, but you don't hear, Black Sunday, but you don't hear a lot about what led up to it and the challenges he faced and getting the money together and all of that. So I thought that was kind of a fun take of it as well. For me, one of the quotes that really stuck out to me was, Walt's life teaches us to do a good day's work and try to make magic for everyone who crosses your path each day. Make their day happy and lighten their burden by taking notice of them. Take an interest in what they are doing. Ask questions the way Walt did. And that was about the young boy who came to his house and he spent hours with him. Ron Stark said that. And I thought that is a great way to be a good leader too, is to listen to our cast and get to know them. And then you can find out where they fit or what passions they have, or maybe something that's going on in their life and that's why they're having challenges in the position they're in, or just connect with them, and then they're going to be more willing to follow you. Walt realized he made a disciple out of him and brought him into the fold just by spending the time and talking to him and getting to know him. So I really liked that. And I also liked what Walt said, where he defined happiness as spontaneous delight harmonized with circumstances. I just really love the sound of that. I think it was just such a fun way to define happiness, and it really signifies who Walt is and what he thought happiness was and why he wanted to make Disneyland. He wanted to spread joy and happiness in the world, especially during such a trying time. And as reading about his films and what stopped him, as well as the park and the depression, everything that was going on, and it just makes you think, what would have happened if the world was a little bit easier to him? What movies would we have gotten? Would this park be larger? Just all the different things that could have happened if the world wasn't such a crazy place. Like during the war, he had all of these ideas and he had to keep shelving them until the war was over. But he also did a lot of good to help with the war effort. And it's just interesting to think what would have been different if times had been different, since he was such a visionary and had all these ideas, but circumstances kept getting in his way. So that just kind of popped up as I was reading, and that's all I got for this week.
I really like that you said, like, listen first. Like, definitely all of us know listening is the best way to be a great leader. So thank you very much for that. Haley, what did you think about this chapter?
All right. So I also agree with Jessica when she says, talks about how we hear a lot about Black Friday and like the plumber strike and everything that day, but there's not a lot that you hear about like leading up. And I loved how they talked about Tomorrowland and them saying like, oh, we'll deal with Tomorrowland tomorrow, because I feel like that's been going on for 65 years now and it's always on the back burner and it'll eventually get redone. What's the rush? So that, and then I also liked when they talked about the night at Tivoli, and they said, Walt later described Tivoli as spotless, brightly colored, and priced within the reach of everyone. The gaiety of the music, the excellence of the food and drink, the warm courtesy of the employees, everything combined for a pleasurable experience. Because besides the priced within the reach of everyone, that sounds a lot like Disneyland. So, and sometimes the food and drink is questionable. So.
Yeah, we always feel bad for poor Tomorrowland. I think I don't know if they brought it up when we were talking about Disneyland Paris, but their Tomorrowland, for a while there anyway, was themed after, I think it was like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that timeline. I think that's a good idea. Just like kind of pick a time and like theme everything to it. But yeah, poor Tomorrowland. So sad. Yes, and Tivoli. I know I want to go to Tivoli now. I think, is that how we say it? Tivoli? I want to go there. Let's see, Judy.
So it was interesting how many challenges the year before Disney opened. It wasn't just Black Sunday. I was thinking the problem they had was because the plumber strike was just before opening, but it was actually around the time where everything should, be gearing up to get the most serious things done when the strike happened. And it wasn't just the plumber strike, it was also the construction strike. So the two most important things needed to create a park, they didn't have their workers. I don't remember if they mentioned how long either strike was, but any type of strike is too long, especially with Walt set on, we have a year to build and open this park and we're sticking to it. Additionally, the weather, that was the wettest year and it was also the hottest year. The heat wave did not break until September. So they weren't making money for the first month and a half that Disney opened. And it's understandable why people thought it was gonna be a failure, because it just was an unrelenting heat, hottest since, one of the hottest years on record at that time. So the fact that, he had all these challenges, but at the same time, once that heat wave broke, they welcomed their millionth customer. What was it in guest in September, middle September, almost just before October. So that was, a great indicator that it was going to be a success. They were also able to buy ABC's share in 6 months. In the 6 months that Disney opened, they were able to have enough money to buy that share back. So it is interesting how things would have gone and how successful Walt Disney would have been if everything would have been easy, like Jessica mentioned, if there weren't these astronomical challenges that constantly were bombarding Disney and his dream. I was also surprised that one of his biggest opponents for the park was his own brother. It makes sense that, he was, because of the financial aspect of it, but the fact that he stopped reacting whenever Walt mentioned the park, to the point where Walt stopped talking about it in front of his brother, that was a big surprise, because I was under the impression that even though he had a different opinion on what would work for the Walt Disney Company, Roy would always, be there to support any outlandish dream that Walt had, except for one of his biggest successes, which is interesting. Another thing I found interesting was how he perceived money. He didn't think it was something that should be stowed away. If there's money to be made, if I'm making money, I'm going to spend it on what needs to happen next. There's one quote where he said, "Money may worry me, but it doesn't excite me." So it was never his goal to make as much money as possible and be as rich as possible. And it showed when the first 6 months before they weren't generating enough money to be out of debt, that his priority was, we're going to be paying the hourly cast members, then management, and whatever money we get left as, Walt and Roy Disney is what we get. If we don't get anything, that it is what it is. So that was very interesting to learn why he had such big dreams and didn't let anything stop him, is because, yeah, he may not have the money, but he'll find a way. But it's because I want to create, and I want to create dreams, and I want to create such a wonderful thing and let people into this world. It doesn't matter if I'm making money or not. I'm making some type of mark on the world in a positive way. So that was interesting to see from this chapter.
I also didn't know that it didn't pick up till September. I guess I just assumed, like everyone else, it was like 28,000 people for the rest of the history of Disneyland. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if it's like the next day we had, like, it was just a precipitous drop off and it was like 10,000 people and they're like, uh-oh. But yeah, meaning they still held on. So next we'll go ahead and go to Vans.
So I know that we've all heard these stories 1,000 times, But it was really nice to hear again about how, and it's been a running thing throughout the book, about how invested he was in doing his research before actually taking on these projects. So I really appreciated hearing again about how he go to Griffith Park and some of these other like amusement parks, to the point where he was going up to kids and asking them what their favorite rides are and explaining, like, can you imagine now going to a park and having a grown man like talking to your child, like trying to get information? That's crazy. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't as strange back then, but still, like, it just shows how persistent he was and how invested he was in his dream. I really don't have a whole lot. Also, wieners. I'm just gonna put it out there again. I couldn't get through it. I'm an 8-year-old boy on the inside. And I think that all of you guys need to know that. And that's all I've got.
I do appreciate the research.
Did you write wieners on that, Judy?
Yeah, my notes were wieners, LOL.
Oh my God. The funny thing is, right when you texted that, Teresa went ahead and texted that she was going to be coming very soon. Or no, that she was missing us but wouldn't be able to come. So.
Oh, okay.
Right as you mentioned wieners, so I think she was just. I don't think that you were connected in any way.
I don't know if she's like if I'm lucky or if she's unlucky for not being part of this conversation.
She would just bring up butterflies or something.
Oh God.
Jenna, this book has been really fascinating for all of us. What do you think? I mean, I'm just really enjoying it.
I mean, I think everybody kind of hit on exactly why I do really love this book, that it just gives you so much more backstory. So we've all heard, like Vanessa said, like we've heard these stories 1,000 times. We've never heard kind of the details surrounding them. So I think sometimes it reminds me a little bit of just like history class, like they say, and then this year World War II happened. It was bad. And you're like, okay. You don't truly get the full spectrum of like what really, the world went through at the time until you actually do your own research, or you hear survivor stories, or you hear, where you really get like the interpretation of everything that actually happened. And this book, I think, is similar for that for me, that a lot of times we kind of wash over like, oh, they had a really bad Sunday, and then the rest of it was great. You're like, oh, okay. So this kind of, for me, it just makes everybody seem very real. Like these are real people with crazy amount of stress that happened, and they did stay so focused on, we want this dream to become a reality, and it's going to happen, and it doesn't matter what comes around it. I can't even tell you how many times in my life that like I'll have a project or whatever I'm working on, and whatever I do just goes wrong. Like, or even makeup in the morning, where like you try to put makeup on and you're just like, it's not happening today. Like, I'm gonna look like, it's gonna look like what I'm gonna look like. But like, that to me is one of the most relatable things about this chapter, is how many times you're just like, why today? Why is this particular thing going wrong? Why is it so frustrating? And his interpretation was, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how frustrating it is. Keep going anyways, because if you have a goal in mind, literally just don't give up. I also really like how much respect he just constantly shows other people, and he does it really subtly, because they talk about how like he doesn't really pay compliments in the book, but then there's definitely some stuff where he just truly respected the people around him, like talking to the kids to get their opinion, or the guy whose name escaped me. I was trying to find it, but the guy whose house was built where the haunted mansion is, and then and he was the ticket taker. It wasn't like he was this, a top executive, and yet his name's on Main Street, and he made a point in recognizing like this was originally his home. So I really like reading those little stories that like he really respected everyone who made a project, and it wasn't just, the top people, it was everyone. That's all.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I just keep going back to the part in the book where like he's getting choked up talking to Herb Ryman about like, hey, I really need you to build me this map, and I know I have like 2 days, but like he's like kind of getting emotional, and like I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because like that dude had a lot of passion for that, and Yeah, maybe we all have passion for Disney, like like Disney did. That he's just a passionate guy. But what do you guys
Very
think about
passionate about
weighing
wieners.
what do you guys think about weighing the coin? From now on, I want us to do that. That just sounds so ingenious.
That would be faster than counting.
2 pounds, $100. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Like a
And
couple
I wrote
hundred-
down the name. It was Ron Dominguez, whose birthplace was where Pirates.
Oh,
is.
yeah, thank you.
Yes, that's right.
Also, I was surprised by the story of 1313 Harbor Boulevard.
Hmm.
I was people tell the story that they go, it's because it's the 13th letter in the alphabet. So MM, Mickey Mouse. Like, okay, so I guess that's not, it's an urban legend, and who knows why 1313 was picked.
Another one of my favorite stories about in this book is the petrified tree, and because that's another one where I think Disney glosses over, like, oh, it was an anniversary present. It was so lovely. And when you read the story, it's like, that is not what happened. It's hilarious.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know. Yeah, now I'm
Every time I see the tree now, I just burst out laughing, especially when someone reads the plaque and like, and it was an anniversary present. I'm like, uh-huh.
Was that in the next 2 chapters, maybe? Hopefully. or no?
I just remember Patrick and I texted the other day, and I used to take stories out of the book and put it in the roll call. So that was definitely one of the stories I put in, because like the ones I remember the most are the stories that I pulled out and I put in the roll call, because I would say it all day long to the cast. So that's one of them that I remember. So I have literally no idea what chapter that was in, but it's definitely in the book. So unless you look forward to that, I thought it was hilarious.
So it seems like to me we could definitely do the next 2 chapters.
I think I mapped it all out, and I think we should do 9 through 11 because it's 41 pages, and right now we just read 39 pages, and then it breaks it up nicely. Because if we only do the 2 chapters, chapter 12 is 34 pages, and chapter 11 is 16 pages. So like we would either have to do 50 pages or like, so that's,
So do 2 this time and then 3 next time, basically, right?
No, she's saying 3 this time.
And
This
then
time, okay.
next time.
that would be 41 pages, and we just read 39 pages. So that way it's more evenly
I
broken.
thought that was a really good amount, by the way, what we just read. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, the 100 pages was a little too much.
Ooh, that was a rough week.
And then the rest of them aren't that long. So we'll be good.
Yeah, no, okay, so 3, so we're gonna go, it's 9 through 11? Okay. Because I gotta write all of it down. Perfect. $16 pages. I wonder what is that chapter? They don't have titles, I guess.
Chapter 9 is like 12 pages, chapter 10 is 13, and chapter 11 is 16. I was like,
Just little snippets.
yeah.
Yeah, can you guys imagine a 1,400% return? That's a lot of money.
At this point, I don't even want to, I bet that return's a lot higher if you calculated it since it's been open.
Yeah, anybody who like owned a share back then or something. Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
I know people talk about like I think it's Amazon. If you own one, it's like you would have like $10 million today if you owned like 500 back then.
Wow.
Some incredible number like it is the biggest return right now for ice stock. They're not getting any smaller. I almost took a job with them actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's just the hours are terrible. Terrible. You do 10 hours a day and it's like 3 a.m. to like 1 p.m. or something.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, forget it was 4 days, but and then I'm too old to be throwing boxes.
Why don't we look at management positions?
I applied for a lead at what was it? It was a Big 5, and they were like, yeah, and we pay $13 an hour for our lead rate, and I was like, okay, that's not too bad. And they're like, yeah, and you'll be the key holder, so you'll be opening the store and closing the store, and the store's open 12 days, and we'll only expect you to be there 5 days. And I'm like, no. Plus, like, I don't really have like, they were like, oh yeah, and you've set up stores for it. And I was like, nope, I'll call my friend Jenna though. So you could do that one because they want you to say like set up it's like they want like visual, like, which I have very little of. But I could probably just wing it, you know. It's my Tamagotchi, Gucci, whatever. Style.
Not a Gucci.
Tamabuchi.
Well, Patrick, I'd say dream bigger. Look at higher management positions. If you change your search to say mid to senior, you get much better results than if you say, because you do have experience.
Yeah, there's a Walmart opening near me. I'm trying to apply there for management.
A Walmart?
Hey, if it's
Thank you,
management,
Judy.
I would take it.
Managing a store, you're managing a store. It doesn't matter, you know, if you're good at it, you're good at it.
That would be the ultimate test.
There's just something about having pride for the company you work for, though, that like.
Well, I'm quitting whatever it is as soon as I can go back full time. So.
Yeah, I mean that's really what the name of the game is right now. We just don't know what's coming. So my dream job has always been Disney. I don't want to leave that, but it's been time to look at other stuff.
But there is a possibility we could be going back soon, right? Because I've been hearing about our numbers are the
Did
numbers
you
are
not see the email you got today?
Yeah, but did you not get that email this morning?
I didn't read it. What was the email about?
Pretty much says no hope.
It says no hope.
It says nothing's changed. It's essentially the gist. They should have just like literally just wrote that nothing's changed.
Oh.
But essentially it just says you're still furloughed. Nothing, you know, but we don't know how long this is going to happen for, but it doesn't look promising.
But I did say, literally the day we got the announcement that they were going to close, we had people going around be like, everything's fine, like, same as normal, don't worry. And then 30 minutes later, they're like, oh, we're closing. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, so maybe they're just trying to psych us out again.
Nonchalantly saying
Okay. It was the opposite side. Like, just kidding, you're all coming back.
Before I forget, are you guys all registered to vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
It took me 4 times to register, but I did it.
Why?
I tried
Why?
it and then I checked to see if I was actually registered and it said no. So then I tried again and then I got a letter saying that I had to call them if the address was correct. So I called them and then they're like, oh, one of the letters is wrong. And the post office switches that letter all the time. So sometimes it's an I and sometimes it's an E. And so I was like, okay. And just like, so you have to go back on and re-register. So I tried. And then when it went to the confirmation page, it had the letter switched, even though I typed it all out. So I called the lady back. She's like, oh, you have to like physically fill out a form then. I was like, okay. And so I finally got the confirmation, but I'm registered. I went through 4 times of trying to
Oh
do
my god.
And like, when are we? Does anybody know when we're actually supposed to receive our ballots?
No.
Yeah.
You can ask the orange dude.
What's that?
I said you can ask the orange dude. Oh, but he already has his.
He turned his into
Exactly.
through mail.
Wait, which one? The one with his Florida address or the one with his New York address?
Beats me.
They say vote early and
Maybe
often.
both.
So.
Casey and I have been really pumped about the whole voting thing.
Think about in 20 years from now when somebody's glossing over this and then in 2020 they had a pandemic.
Right? Yeah.
Like, but no, we lived through it. It's not. It really makes you rethink all of history of like when somebody just says something in one line of like, oh yeah, then that happened. Okay.
There's a they consider like the worst year in like the history of the world is like 530 BC, I think it is.
I think it's 2020.
They had Justinian's plague like ravaging like everywhere, and there was like invasions everywhere, and there's like people like sinking in ships and earthquakes and volcanoes, and I was like, we're getting close though. Like, I don't know, we just need a volcano or two, and we're gonna be there.
Don't you take that
like,
back?
don't.
You take it back right now.
What is the big national park that has the whole super volcano?
Montana. I've been terrified of that. The second I took severe and hazardous weather in college, and he tells us about the super volcano, and I'm like, how are we all living?
Yeah, I think it's like Yellowstone, right? Like the whole park is just a
It's
volcano.
literally the whole thing. It's a giant volcano. And if it goes out, the good news is where we live now, we would not be affected. It would have ash that rains down in Chicago, but pretty much like Mississippi River over, they're cool. And we're down south enough where we're okay, but pretty much Los Angeles up, not pretty. It takes out the whole thing. It all goes.
Well, the eruption, but the ash is going to cover the sun. We're going to have a nice long winter.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, everyone's talking about global warming. One good ice age will fix that.
Okay, but at least we didn't have to work when it was 110. So, you know, I guess there's that, right?
Yeah, yep. Silver lining.
Well, fire tornadoes. I thought that was a new one. Like that was interesting to read about. Fire tornadoes.
Yeah, and there was the plague. The actual plague was on like rats or something in the U.S. Maybe even in California, I think it was.
Lake Tahoe just found the plague or something, right?
Yeah. So
No one had the plague.
The plague never went away though. Like there's cases of that pop up all the time. The people that get the plague. There's like 3 or 4 a year. But now we know what it is and like how to treat it. So it's not like it was back in the day.
Well, we're all like descendants of the people that survived it. So I think. What a year. What a terrible, terrible, awful year.
I'd like my money back, please.
Has anyone seen that meme with the stemless wine glass? And it has optimists, the glass is half full. Pessimists, the glass is half empty. 2020, this is urine, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate for this year.
It is accurate because you don't like see it as bad. You're just like, no, it's definitely pee.
Exactly. Like what more bad stuff can happen this year?
Don't put it out there. You can't put that out in the universe.
I take it back. We're just desensitized. That's what I mean. We're desensitized to the point where like
It's true.
it's not the worst thing ever. It is what it is, right? Like it's, you know,
Okay,
don't try and fool me. It's pee, isn't it? So, like no surprises. Like hot weather, right? 2 tornadoes over hot Florida and Louisiana, right? Still pandemic. We still have hundreds of thousands of people have died.
Yeah. Do you hear about the derecho storm? Which I thought it was funny that they named it derecho because who names a storm right? But anyway, because I get all the Chicago news. There's this crazy, terrible, like tornado themed storm, but it wasn't tornado because it wasn't swirling. It was just a massive. They called it a derecho. That the storm literally swept through like 3 different states at 80 miles per hour and just like took out everything as it went. But the whole storm, because it was moving so quick, only lasted 15 minutes. So if you look up Iowa, they're like devastated right now. Like it's awful. Like Iowa got hit the worst, and it's not even hitting the news. So everybody in the Midwest is like, but Iowa, and everyone's like, no, like look at everything else that's happening, and Iowa's like destroyed right now. And in Chicago too, but I just got all like the fun photos from Chicago because by the time it got to Chicago, it slowed down to like 70 miles per hour. So it wasn't hit as bad. It literally like tore through because it was essentially the same as a tornado, but it literally just got everything out.
Wow.
You can look up the derecho.
Well, then that's what it is. It's bad news, but is it the worst news? And where's that gauge now?
Derecho without even realizing what it's.
Guys, I got kids. I got to get back to school, so I'm going to have to get off right now. But it was a pleasure talking with you. I'll see you next Monday.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.
Tomorrow. You're welcome.
Wait, what?
Pumpkin spice lattes and cold brews are tomorrow.
Nice.
So
Those cold brews, though.
I know. So that's your good news for the day.
All right. See you guys later.